It's impossible to stay poor if you apply these 40 laws of wealth every day, because they are the laws the rich live by. And once you hear all 40, your life will never be the same again. So, without wasting any more time, make sure to stay until the end. Remember that Law 34 is where everything will shift inside you. Leave a like and let's start. Law 1. Plant the seed of wealth. Wealth does not begin with money. Wealth begins with intention. It begins with the moment you decide that every dollar, every skill, every hour of effort will serve a purpose, instead of drifting away into nothing. Most people are poor, not because they lack opportunity, but because they lack planting. They spend what they earn, they chase distractions, they let their money evaporate into pleasures that last 5 minutes and regrets that last 5 years. Wealthy people play a different game. They plant ideas, habits, skills, investments and relationships that grow slowly at first but powerfully over time. The seed of wealth is small, almost invisible. It might be setting aside a tiny percentage of your income, or building a simple digital project, or learning one skill that increases your value. At first, nothing seems to happen. The ground is still. The seed sleeps. But underground, transformation is happening, and one day growth bursts through the soil in a way you cannot ignore. Wealth is built the same way trees grow, silently, consistently, patiently. You plant, you water, you wait, and eventually the harvest becomes too large to hide. You want to escape poverty? Plant. You want to build stability? Plant. You want freedom, choices, control over your future? Plant. Because nobody escapes poverty through speed, they escape it through seeds. Law 2. Master the lifestyle gap. If wealth had a single doorway, this would be it. The lifestyle gap is the invisible space between what you earn and what you spend, and most people destroy their wealth before it ever forms simply by closing that gap. They let every raise turn into a new expense. Every extra dollar becomes a treat. Every improvement in income becomes an improvement in comfort. And comfort, when abused, is one of the fastest ways to stay broke forever. Wealthy people do something very different. When income rises, lifestyle stays still. They freeze it. They lock it. They refuse to let comfort sabotage their future. Why? Because the gap between income and spending is the engine that builds wealth. It is the fuel that funds investments, the cushion that protects against emergencies, the advantage that lets opportunities feel possible instead of terrifying. You cannot stay poor if you widen that gap consistently. Eventually the gap becomes a river, and that river transforms into assets that grow on their own. You gain breathing room, you gain stability, you gain strength, and wealth becomes a natural byproduct of your restraint. So choose a lifestyle below your income. Guard it like a treasure. Because, the moment your lifestyle takes control, your future loses control. But when you control the lifestyle gap, wealth has no choice but to follow you. Law 3. Play the endless game of wealth. Wealth is not a finish line. It is not a moment where you suddenly made it and never think about money again. That mindset is why so many people sabotage themselves. They push hard, save aggressively, make progress, then stop. They relax, they let things slide, they assume the game is over. But wealth is an endless game, and not in a stressful way, but in a sustaining way. Once you begin building wealth, you must treat it as a process without an ending. You refine your systems, you adjust your investments, you monitor your habits, you update your strategies as the world evolves. Wealth is like a garden. You do not plant it once and walk away. You tend it, you prune it, you remove weeds, you strengthen the soil. A garden left alone long enough becomes wild again. Wealth works the same. You maintain it, not obsessively but consistently. Wealthy people think in decades. They understand that the goal is not to escape work forever, but to create a life where work is optional, where opportunities appear naturally, where decisions are made with clarity instead of fear. When you treat wealth like a lifelong companion instead of a temporary objective, your actions become calm, strategic, mature. You no longer chase quick wins, you build lasting advantages. And once you enter the endless game with intention, staying poor becomes nearly impossible. Especially if you open your YouTube channel with my help, since YouTube is literally on easy mode now, and it's blowing up every small channel that does things right, as I teach you in my free Telegram community, with the link below. Law 4. Strengthen the self before strengthening the bank. Wealth amplifies who you are. If you are insecure, money intensifies insecurity. If you are undisciplined, money magnifies chaos. If you are lost, money exaggerates confusion. This is why countless people earn well, yet remain broke. Their inner structure cannot support outer success. Wealthy individuals understand a profound truth. Your character is the container that holds your wealth. If the container cracks, everything leaks. So wealth begins internally. It begins with self-respect, discipline, emotional control, and the ability to delay gratification. When you build the self first, your spending becomes intentional, and your investments become guided by logic instead of impulse. You stop buying to impress strangers, and you start buying to improve your life. You stop comparing yourself to others, and you start competing with who you were last year. You stop seeking validation, and you start seeking growth. The strongest form of wealth is not the money you accumulate, but the person you become while accumulating it. Because once your identity upgrades, your financial life upgrades automatically. You cannot stay poor when you operate with clarity, confidence, and inner stability. Your habits shift, your decisions sharpen, your standards rise. You attract better opportunities, build stronger relationships, and avoid destructive behaviors. Strengthen the self, and your bank account will follow with loyalty. And we will go even deeper into this in Law 11. Law 5. Protect your wealth with silence. Wealth grows faster in the shadows than in the spotlight. The moment people know you are rising, they begin projecting their fears, expectations, jealousy, and entitlement onto you. Friends may expect handouts, relatives may make demands, strangers may judge your choices, and even your successes may become targets. Silence is not secrecy born from paranoia. Silence is strategic protection. When you keep your progress private, you move without friction. You experiment without noise. You fail without humiliation. You pivot without explanations. Your goals remain yours alone, untouched by the opinions of those who do not share your ambitions. Wealthy people understand that privacy creates power. It gives them freedom to build slowly, calmly, deliberately. It shields them from unnecessary drama. It keeps their relationships clean and their minds focused. And most importantly, it reduces risk. Flaunting wealth invites predators, jealousy, manipulation, and inflated expectations. Quiet wealth invites peace. When people underestimate you, they leave you alone. When they think you're average, they compete with others instead of you. And while they are distracted by appearances, you are disciplined by purpose. So speak less, move quietly, achieve loudly only to yourself. Wealth becomes unstoppable when built in silence. Law 6. Prepare for storms before they arrive. Crises are not obstacles. Crises are opportunities disguised as danger, but only those who prepare benefit from them. The unprepared panic during economic downturns. They sell for losses. They freeze when prices drop. They drown in fear. Meanwhile, the prepared see storms as clearance sales on the world's most valuable assets. Wealthy people know crashes are not rare. They are rhythms of the financial world, repeating every few years with different faces but the same structure. So they build cash reserves, they create rules in advance, they study history instead of headlines. They position themselves so when the storm arrives, they are not vulnerable, they are ready. Preparation turns fear into advantage. When prices collapse, the prepared acquire assets at discounts that will never appear during calm times. While others retreat, they advance. While others mourn, they build. While others hesitate, they multiply. You cannot stay poor if you prepare consistently. Every storm becomes a stepping stone. Every panic becomes a purchase. Every downturn becomes a slingshot for your future. Storms are inevitable. Disaster is optional. Preparation is the difference. Law 7. Elevate your earning power. Wealth cannot exist without excess income, excess skill, excess value. If your income never grows, your life remains trapped between rising prices and stagnant opportunities. That is why wealthy people make increasing their earning power a yearly mission. They learn high-value skills. They study communication, sales, finance, leadership, and digital creation. They become more useful to the world, and the world pays them more because of it. The poor wait for raises. the wealthy manufacture raises. They become too skilled to ignore, too capable to underpay, too valuable to dismiss. And with every increase in income, they widen the lifestyle gap, grow investments, and expand their freedom. Your earning power is the foundation of every law of wealth. Without it, progress becomes slow, painful, suffocating. With it, progress becomes smooth and inevitable. When you raise your value, the world raises your opportunities. When you raise your opportunities, the world raises your wealth. Wealth is attracted to competence, so become competent at something rare. Become valuable. Become hard to replace. Poverty fears skill. Wealth depends on it, and the best skill to insert in your army now is the skill of making faceless YouTube channels, like the one you are watching. Law 8. Master time and let compounding fight for you. Time is the most powerful wealth-building force on Earth. It multiplies small efforts into massive results. It turns ordinary decisions into extraordinary outcomes. But most people never experience its full power because they start too late or stop too soon. Wealthy individuals treat time like an ally. They invest early, consistently, automatically. They understand that compounding does not reward intensity, but consistency. It does not reward big contributions, but repeated contributions. You can beat people who earn more than you simply by starting earlier. You can surpass people who begin with more simply by staying committed longer. Compounding is slow at first, painfully slow, almost invisible. But once it wakes up, it becomes unstoppable. It accelerates. It snowballs. It multiplies your discipline into freedom. Every year you delay destroys potential. Every month you contribute builds momentum. And once compounding gains speed, it feels like wealth is chasing you, rather than the other way around. Master time and staying poor becomes mathematically impossible. Law 9. Stop digging deeper when life places you in a hole. Wealth does not grow in perfect seasons. It grows during mistakes, corrections, pivots, and rediscoveries. One of the biggest reasons people stay broke is because they keep digging when life already placed them in a hole. They defend bad decisions, they cling to failed projects. They hold on to toxic spending habits and unprofitable commitments because they are emotionally attached to the story they told themselves. But wealth demands humility. It demands the courage to say, "This is not working," and then take the exit before the setback becomes a disaster. Wealthy individuals do not fall in love with their mistakes. They cut losses fast, not because they are smarter, but because they refuse to let pride drain their future. When they see a leak, they fix it. When they notice a habit destroying their finances, they stop feeding it. When an investment turns unhealthy, they reevaluate without emotion. When a business idea fails to gain traction, they change direction instead of sinking more money into a sinking ship. Poor thinkers wait. They hope. They pretend. They add more money to a fire that is already too large. And the deeper the hole becomes, the harder the climb out will be. Wealth is built when you stop digging. When you step back, breathe and say, "I'm changing this today." Every decision becomes lighter. Every plan becomes clearer. Every consequence becomes manageable. Wealth does not require perfection. It requires the courage to stop going backward so you can finally move forward. Law 10. Understand before you leap. There are two types of people in the financial world: those who research before acting and those who act before researching. Only one of these groups builds wealth. The other builds regrets. The 10th law of wealth is simple. Never invest in anything you do not understand deeply enough to explain to a child. The world is full of shiny opportunities. New trends, quick promises, overnight riches. People rush in with excitement, believing enthusiasm is the same thing as knowledge. But enthusiasm does not protect you. Understanding does. Wealthy minds ask questions. They study the mechanics behind their choices. They want to know how a business makes money, why an asset grows, what risks exist, and what the worst-case scenario looks like. They are not pessimistic. They are prepared. Poor thinkers chase hype, trust strangers, follow crowds, and enter opportunities with no map. Then they blame the world when the outcome turns sour. Understanding's not slow. Ignorance is expensive. When you understand before you leap, every decision becomes calmer. You know why you're entering, what you expect, And when you should walk away, you stop gambling, you start strategizing. You look past the surface and see the truth of an opportunity instead of the fantasy others sell. Wealth is a thinking game before it is a money game. The more you understand, the harder it becomes to stay poor because you stop stepping into traps that others fall into willingly. Learn first, act later. That alone separates wealth from poverty more than most people will ever realize. And we will see another thing that separates wealth from poverty even more in Law 24. Law 11: respect the silent enemy of your wealth. Inflation is not loud. It does not knock on your door. It does not warn you before it steals from your wallet. It is the quiet enemy that slowly dissolves your savings while you sleep. The 11th law of wealth is understanding that cash, when it sits too long, shrinks. Not dramatically at first, but quietly, subtly, invisibly. People think holding lots of cash makes them safe. But inflation doesn't care about your sense of safety. It erodes your purchasing power year after year until the money you saved faithfully loses its strength. Wealthy people respect this threat. They keep enough cash to stay protected, but never so much that their wealth becomes stagnant. They invest in assets that fight inflation. Businesses, productive real estate, dividend-paying companies, digital projects, and anything that grows faster than the rate at which currency weakens. They move their money into fields where it works, multiplies, and evolves. Poor minds keep everything in a basic savings account, believing that saving is the path to wealth. But saving alone is not protection. Growth is. Wealth demands that your money has a job. It must produce, multiply, expand. Leaving money idle is like leaving seeds on a table and expecting a forest. It is not caution, it is decay. Inflation punishes hesitation and rewards action. The moment you begin placing your money into productive assets, inflation loses its grip. The enemy becomes powerless. Wealth becomes inevitable. This is how people who understand inflation grow richer, while those who fear risk grow poorer without noticing until it's too late. Law 12. Declutter your desires before they destroy your future. People stay poor because they buy things they do not need to impress people they do not like, with money they cannot afford to lose. Wealth requires discipline, not in earning, but in wanting. Your desires can either elevate your life or imprison it. When you crave objects, status, or validation, you become a servant to your impulses. Every impulse has a cost. Every cost slows your path to wealth. Wealthy people simplify. They prioritize tools over toys, assets over ornaments, experiences over ego. They do not fill their homes with noise. They fill their future with security. They do not buy to escape boredom. They buy to increase capability. They do not chase the illusion of looking rich. They pursue the reality of becoming wealthy. Most people never achieve wealth because they let every emotion turn into a purchase. Stress becomes spending. Insecurity becomes upgrades. Boredom becomes shopping. This cycle keeps them trapped forever. Decluttering your desires means removing the emotional triggers that drain your wealth. It means remembering that true satisfaction does not come from objects. It comes from freedom, time, purpose, and the ability to choose your life without financial fear. When you limit unnecessary desires, you create a powerful financial surplus. And that surplus, when planted into investments, becomes unstoppable over time. Wealth is not built by denying yourself everything. It is built by choosing wisely, intentionally, and without letting impulses hijack your future. Law 13. Break away from the average mind. Average behavior produces average outcomes, and average financial outcomes in today's world mean debt, stress, dependence, and struggle. If you copy what the majority does with their money, you will live like the majority, confused, exhausted, and stuck. The 13th law of wealth is becoming a thinker who does not follow the crowd blindly. Wealthy people are not contrarians for the sake of rebellion. They are independent thinkers who make decisions based on numbers, logic, and long-term consequences, not noise or trends. They pause while others rush. They research while others assume. They observe while others react emotionally. Poor thinkers do what everyone else does because it feels safe. But safety in crowds is an illusion. Crowds buy high and sell low. Crowds overspend. Crowds chase fast rewards. Crowds trust hype. Crowds trade their future for entertainment. Breaking away from average thinking does not mean being extreme. It means being intentional. It means asking why instead of following blindly. It means choosing the harder path now for the easier life later. Wealth demands individuality. You must think differently, act differently, choose differently. Because if you think like everyone else, your life becomes like everyone else's. And society's default outcome is not wealth, it's struggle. Once you separate yourself from average thinking, wealth becomes a natural side effect of your decisions. Think about it. Will the average person ever open its YouTube channel since YouTube is on easy mode now? Well, the answer is no, but you have to escape the average and understand that with my help, YouTube can become your biggest source of income. Law 14: compound ordinary actions into extraordinary results. Wealth is not built by dramatic actions, it is built by ordinary steps done with extraordinary consistency. People wait for the perfect moment, the perfect idea, the perfect investment, the perfect timing. But perfection is a trap that keeps them frozen while life moves forward without them. Wealthy people understand that extraordinary success comes from ordinary behaviours, repeated longer than most people are willing to endure. Saving a bit consistently, learning every day, improving your craft little by little, investing monthly without fail, charging slightly more for better work, sending one more message, building one more skill, taking one more step. These tiny actions look meaningless in the moment, but wealth does not reward individual actions. It rewards the accumulation of them. Like drops filling a bucket, like bricks forming a wall, like minutes creating mastery. The small things create the big things. Poor thinkers chase miracles. Wealthy thinkers chase habits. They understand that the compound effect is the most powerful force in personal finance, careers, relationships, and skill building. When you stack tiny improvements daily, the final result looks like magic to everyone else. But it was never magic, it was consistency. You cannot stay poor when your daily actions compound in your favour. The universe bends toward those who show up every day. Law 15: use leverage with intelligence, not impulse. Leverage is the force that can either lift you to wealth or crush you under its weight. It multiplies every decision you make, which is why you must treat it with precision. Wealthy people understand leverage as a tool, not a toy. They use debt carefully, deliberately, strategically, only when the asset produces cash flow or long-term growth that outweighs the cost of borrowing. They never use leverage to fuel lifestyle. They never borrow for pleasure. They borrow to accelerate the growth of something already proven. Poor thinkers use leverage recklessly. Credit cards, car loans, impulse financing. They borrow for wants instead of investments. They push themselves into a future where every month becomes a financial battle. Debt becomes a chain that tightens with time. Wealthy people treat leverage like fire, useful for cooking, disastrous for sleeping. Before they take on debt, they calculate worst-case scenarios, stress test outcomes, check their buffers, and ensure that even if things go wrong, they remain intact. Leverage in the right hands builds empires. In the wrong hands, it builds ruins. Your relationship with leverage determines your financial trajectory. Use it wisely, patiently, intentionally, and it becomes a staircase to wealth. Use it impulsively, and it becomes a trap designed by your own decisions. Law 16: learn the invisible rules that wealthy people follow. Wealth is not just about earning more, it is about keeping more. And the 16th law highlights one of the biggest divides between the wealthy and the struggling. Wealthy people study the rules that govern taxes, expenses, structures, deductions, and legal optimization. They know how the system works, so the system works for them instead of against them. Poor minds avoid these topics, calling them boring, complicated, or for rich people only. But the system does not reward ignorance. It silently punishes it. Wealthy individuals learn how to reduce friction, legally and intelligently. They understand the power of retirement accounts, business structures, tax-efficient investments, written documentation, depreciation, and deductible expenses. They treat knowledge as armour. They treat the laws as levers. They use the rules not to cheat, but to choose the path with less resistance. Keeping more money is easier than earning more money, but only if you know how the game works. When you understand these rules, your wealth accelerates automatically. When you ignore them, your wealth leaks constantly. Information is not optional. It is leverage of the mind. And once you learn how the financial world truly operates, staying poor becomes nearly impossible because you stop giving your wealth away through ignorance. Law 17, prepare for the moment that moves you 10 years ahead. Every path to wealth contains a single moment that can shift your life forward faster than anything else you've done. A rare opportunity, a sudden discount, a moment of clarity, a connection that opens a door, a crisis that lowers the noise around you. But these moments never wait for your convenience. They arrive unannounced, unpredictable, disguised as uncertainty. And the 17th law of wealth is understanding that you cannot predict these moments, but you can prepare for them. Wealthy people do not rely on luck, yet they are the ones who seem to experience the most luck. Why? Because they keep reserves, they build skills, they stay ready, they create systems that make action possible when others freeze. Poor thinkers see opportunities as risks. Wealthy thinkers see opportunities as catalysts. And once a catalyst appears, a discounted property, a growing market, a high-value client, a breakthrough idea, they act, not recklessly but decisively. They don't spend days overthinking. They don't drown in fear. They recognize the moment and move. People stay poor, not because opportunities never come, but because they're unprepared when opportunities arrive. They overspend so they have no capital. They procrastinate so they have no skills. They hesitate so they lose their chance. Preparing does not mean being perfect. It means being available. It means having enough skill, cash, clarity, and courage to seize a rare opening. One right move, made at the right time, can replace 10 years of slow progress. And once you understand that, you stop waiting for permission and start preparing for acceleration. And that acceleration will happen in Law 35. Law 18. Guard your goals from unqualified opinions. Wealth grows in private and dies in public. The 18th law of wealth is realizing that sharing your dreams with the wrong people can destroy them before they ever begin. Most people project their fears onto you. They tell you what they believe they cannot do, not what you can do. They mock your ambitions to protect their comfort. They criticize your plans to protect their ego. They try to shrink you so they never feel small next to your growth. Poor thinkers sabotage each other, often unintentionally, by offering opinions without knowledge or results. Wealthy individuals do the opposite. They protect their goals until those goals have roots strong enough to resist doubt. They share plans only with people who are either experienced, supportive, or irrelevant. They understand that opinions are powerful, and the wrong opinion at the wrong time can derail years of progress. Every great idea is fragile at the beginning. It needs time, privacy, protection. It needs space to grow without being crushed by insecurity or negativity. Guard your goals. Guard your vision. Guard your early momentum. The path to wealth becomes infinitely easier when you remove the voices that keep you small. You cannot stay poor when you stop letting the wrong people speak into your life. Law 19. Let the 80-20 rule build your wealth faster than effort ever could. Not all actions matter equally. Not all clients matter equally. Not all habits matter equally. Wealth multiplies when you identify the few actions that produce the majority of your results. This is the law of leverage, the law of impact, the law of disproportionate returns. The 19th law of wealth is mastering the 80-20 rule. Wealthy people study their lives ruthlessly. They identify the 20% of tasks that create 80% of their income. They find the 20% of habits that determine 80% of their growth. They recognize the 20% of investments responsible for 80% of their returns. Then they double down. They eliminate low-value tasks. They delegate distractions. They simplify routines. They do less, but extract more from what remains. Poor thinkers do the opposite. They stay busy instead of productive. They scatter their energy across meaningless tasks. They confuse activity with progress. They waste hours on low-impact efforts, instead of concentrating power on what truly builds wealth. Once you master the 80-20 rule, your life changes permanently. You stop forcing progress. You start directing it. You stop chasing results. You start engineering them. Wealth becomes a byproduct of focusing on what matters most and ruthlessly eliminating everything else. When you live with this clarity, staying poor becomes mathematically impossible because your energy compounds instead of leaking. And your skills compound your money. You only have to know how to master the skill of making profitable YouTube channels. And everything will change after, especially with my help. Law 20. Remember what money cannot buy and protect what truly matters. The 20th law of wealth is grounding yourself in reality. Money can buy comfort, freedom, options, time, and security. But it cannot buy meaning, health, integrity, relationships, love, trust, or inner peace. Many people sabotage their financial future because they chase emotional fulfillment through expensive distractions. They believe money will fill the void within them. But wealth is not meant to replace the things that make us human. It is meant to support them. Wealthy people understand the difference between money and meaning. They invest in health because health multiplies the value of every dollar. They invest in relationships because relationships determine the quality of life more than any object can. They protect their time because time is the one resource money cannot replenish. They build integrity because without integrity, wealth becomes hollow. They nurture purpose because purpose gives wealth direction instead of emptiness. Poor thinkers chase symbols of success instead of the substance of success. They sacrifice sleep, health, family, and self-respect for the illusion of wealth. But illusion does not last. True wealth is holistic. It includes financial strength, emotional stability, physical well-being, and meaningful relationships. When you understand what money cannot buy, you protect what truly matters. And when you protect what matters, your wealth becomes something worth keeping. Law 21. Treat cash like a tool for stability. Not growth. Cash is safety. Cash is breathing room. Cash is stability. But cash is not growth. The 21st law of wealth is understanding the role cash plays in your life. You need enough to survive storms, but not so much that your wealth stops multiplying. Wealthy people treat cash like a parking lot. Useful for short periods, disastrous for long-term storage. They keep emergency reserves to protect their lives, but they do not let fear or uncertainty push them into hoarding cash. They understand that money sitting still is money shrinking, losing power through inflation and missed opportunities. Cash must flow into assets that grow, into businesses, into real estate, into index funds, into skills, into systems, into tools that multiply instead of drain. Poor thinkers hold on to cash because they confuse motion with danger. They fear losing money so intensely that they guarantee loss through stagnation. This leads to slow decay, not growth. The wealthy set rules. A certain amount stays liquid. Everything beyond that moves. This balance creates both safety and acceleration. It gives you calm and momentum at the same time. When you learn to treat cash as stability instead of growth, your wealth stops drowning in fear and starts compounding in strength, especially after you hear Law 29. Law 22. Understand how money moves through the system you live in. Most people use the financial system without understanding it. They deposit money without understanding what banks do with it. They borrow without understanding how interest works. They invest without understanding why markets rise. They spend without understanding how credit fuels consumption. The 22nd law of wealth is studying the system you participate in every single day. Banks take deposits and turn them into loans. Loans create spending. Spending fuels businesses. Businesses create jobs. Jobs create income. Income goes back into banks. This cycle shapes your entire financial life. Wealthy individuals understand this cycle intimately. They know how the system profits from them, so they learn how to profit from the system. They become owners instead of consumers, lenders instead of borrowers, investors instead of spenders, producers instead of spectators. Poor thinkers complain about the system while participating in the worst parts of it. Wealthy thinkers study the system and leverage the best parts of it. They avoid high-interest debt, but they benefit from high-interest gains. They use the banking system as a tool, not a trap. They understand taxes, inflation, credit, equity, and business mechanics. Once you understand how money moves, you stop being the product and start being the participant. Wealth becomes natural. Poverty becomes optional. Law 23. Borrow only when money is cheap and your plan is powerful. Debt can be a lever or a weapon. It can accelerate your wealth or destroy it completely. The 23rd law of wealth is mastering the art of borrowing strategically. Wealthy people borrow only when two conditions are met. The cost of borrowing is low, meaning interest rates are favourable. The asset produces more than the debt costs, meaning the investment is productive. This transforms debt from a burden into a multiplier. They borrow to acquire real estate with strong rental potential. They borrow to grow businesses with proven demand. They borrow to accelerate opportunities that already show long-term stability. Poor thinkers borrow for everything except wealth building: cars, gadgets, clothes, vacations, liabilities that fade quickly and leave long-lasting payments. This difference explains why one group grows richer through leverage, while the other grows poorer. Strategic borrowing protects you. Reckless borrowing traps you. When money is cheap and your plan is strong, borrowing becomes a tool that expands your horizon. But if the numbers don't support the debt, walking away becomes the smartest decision. Wealth grows when you borrow with intelligence, discipline, and clarity. Staying poor becomes almost impossible when every borrowed dollar works harder than you do. Law 24: become the borrower banks fight to lend to banks reward predictability, stability, and responsibility. When you become a low-risk borrower, money becomes cheaper, opportunities multiply, and leverage becomes safe instead of dangerous. Wealthy people understand this deeply. They build strong credit scores. They pay obligations on time. They keep their debt-to-income ratio healthy. They maintain organized financial records. They build buffers that prove they can handle volatility. They become the ideal borrower, the kind banks fight for. Why does this matter? Because lower interest rates give you years of additional financial acceleration. The poor complain that banks only help the rich, not realizing that banks help those who present themselves as financially intelligent. You don't need to be rich to earn trust. You need to be responsible, consistent, and prepared. When you become the type of borrower banks compete for, money becomes cheaper. And cheap money, when used wisely, becomes the fuel that multiplies your wealth more quickly than nearly any other tool. Wealth grows faster when institutions see you as an asset, not a risk. And once you reach that level of financial strength, staying poor becomes nearly impossible. Law 25: treat credit like controlled fire. Credit is one of the most misunderstood tools in the modern world. People either fear it or abuse it, but almost nobody respects it properly. The 25th law of wealth is learning that credit is like fire, useful when contained, destructive when left unmanaged. Poor thinkers treat credit cards as extensions of their income. They buy impulsively, spend emotionally, and convince themselves they will pay it off later. Later becomes years. Years become stress, and stress becomes chains. Wealthy thinkers approach credit with total discipline. They pay balances in full, not because they are rich, but because they refuse to give interest even one unnecessary dollar. They use credit as a tool to unlock travel points, build a strong credit score, and prove financial stability, but never as a source of spending power. Wealthy people do not let convenience turn into debt. They use debit for everyday life and credit for controlled benefits. They understand that the reward points are small, but the interest is huge. They know credit is cheaper when you treat it responsibly and brutally expensive when you treat it emotionally. The goal is simple. Let credit serve your wealth, never your impulses. When used wisely, it becomes proof of your financial maturity. When abused, it becomes the fastest route to staying poor forever. Law 26. Avoid heavy commitments before you build a financial foundation. One of the biggest mistakes people make on the road to wealth is locking themselves into responsibilities that limit their freedom before they have even built a foundation. The 26th law of wealth reminds you that early commitments can drain your future. A luxury car payment, oversized apartment, a long-term contract, a lifestyle you cannot sustain. These choices may feel exciting at first, but they quietly become traps. They anchor you to jobs you dislike, limit your ability to invest, shrink your options, and steal years of financial momentum. Wealthy people delay heavy commitments. They stay light, flexible, financially breathable. They choose homes they can afford easily. They drive cars that keep them mobile instead of drained. They say no to payments that own them. They build a base before they build a lifestyle. This is not deprivation, it is preparation. Once your foundation is strong, the commitments you make become choices, not burdens. You can upgrade with confidence, not desperation. You can improve your lifestyle without endangering your future. Wealth grows through freedom. Debt grows through pressure. When you avoid heavy commitments early, you clear the path for wealth to enter your life without resistance. and try to replace those commitments with something else. Maybe a skill, the skill of making profitable YouTube channels. As I repeat you, seize this opportunity now. Since YouTube is on easy mode, don't let it pass by. It will be your biggest regret. Law 27. Eliminate habits that quietly drain your wealth. People imagine poverty arrives in dramatic waves, but in reality, it arrives through tiny daily habits that drain your wealth, drop by drop. The 27th law of wealth is recognizing and eliminating the routines that silently steal your financial future. Smoking, gambling, constant takeout, impulsive online shopping, subscriptions you forgot about, late fees, wasted groceries, emotional spending. All small choices that compound against you. Poor thinkers underestimate the long-term cost of their habits. They see each purchase as harmless, each indulgence as minor. But minor becomes massive when repeated thousands of times. Wealthy individuals calculate differently. They understand that every habit has a financial trajectory. A bad habit does not cost $5 today. It costs tens of thousands across the years. A wasted dollar is not just a dollar lost. It is an investment never made, a piece of wealth never planted. When you break one destructive habit, you unlock a lifetime of gain. Eliminating bad habits is the easiest wealth hack because the rewards compound automatically. The hardest part is honesty. You must face the truth about what drains you. When you remove the habits that weaken you, wealth begins to grow without resistance. Your future self will thank you for every habit you break today. Law 28. Build joy without debt. Joy is free. Debt is not. Many people stay broke because they mistake entertainment for fulfillment and spending for joy. The 28th law of wealth is learning to enjoy life in ways that do not sabotage your future. Wealthy people understand that memories, relationships, and personal growth create deeper happiness than expensive outings or flashy purchases. A walk with someone you love, a home-cooked meal with friends, a creative hobby, a small adventure, a shared conversation. These create real joy without draining your accounts. Poor thinkers chase excitement that fades quickly and costs heavily. A weekend celebration becomes a month of regret. A night out becomes credit card interest. A spontaneous purchase becomes long-term pressure. Wealthy thinkers design a joyful life that does not rely on debt. They discover fun through community, curiosity, growth, and creativity, not consumption. When you separate joy from spending, you unlock a truth that will follow you forever. Joy is cheap, but debt is expensive. And once you build a lifestyle full of natural joy, your desire to spend decreases naturally. Wealth grows, stress shrinks, life becomes lighter, fuller, happier. Joy without debt is one of the purest forms of freedom. Law 29. Choose simple businesses with repeatable demand. Wealth grows fastest in simplicity. The 29th law of wealth is choosing business models that people will need again and again. Complex businesses look exciting from the outside, but simplicity builds empires. Wealthy people invest in or build businesses with predictable recurring demand. Food, cleaning, software, utilities, repairs, essentials or digital services people use repeatedly. They value reliability over glamour. Poor thinkers chase trends that require luck, timing, or constant reinvention. They build businesses that collapse as soon as attention fades. Simplicity wins because simple products are easy to understand, easy to improve, easy to sell, and easy to scale. When customers buy from you repeatedly, you no longer fight for every sale. Your income becomes predictable. Predictability becomes stability. Stability becomes freedom. Wealth grows exponentially when you stop chasing complicated dreams and start building simple systems. A simple business with steady demand can pay you for decades, like a YouTube channel. And decades of steady income can transform your entire life. Wealth is not complicated. People make it complicated. Simplicity is the real advantage. Law 30. Build a brand that lets you win before the competition begins. Brand is invisible leverage. When people trust your name, your work, your voice, or your business, they choose you without comparing. The 30th law of wealth is understanding that brand is not a logo. Brand is reputation, consistency, memory. It is the feeling people associate with your presence. Wealthy people invest in brand because they know trust reduces friction. Customers return automatically. Opportunities appear naturally, Sales become easier. Marketing becomes cheaper. Competition becomes irrelevant. Poor thinkers focus only on transactions. Wealthy thinkers focus on identity. They deliver quality repeatedly. They speak clearly. They show reliability. They build a story people connect with. Over time, their name becomes the shortcut to the customer's decision. In crowded markets, the best brand wins, not the best product. When your brand becomes strong, your wealth becomes defended. You can charge more, scale faster, fail safely, and recover quickly. A brand is like a moat around your financial castle. Strengthen it constantly, because the stronger your brand becomes, the harder it becomes for poverty to follow you. Brand is power. Brand is wealth. Brand is protection. Law 31. Prioritize streams of income over symbols of status. Status symbols are expensive. Income streams are liberating. Most people chase the symbols, cars, clothes, gadgets, appearances, because they want validation. Wealthy people chase streams, cash flow, dividends, royalties, rent, services, automated systems, because they want freedom. The 31st law of wealth is choosing streams over symbols. A symbol impresses for a moment. A stream pays you forever. A symbol drains your account. A stream fills it. A symbol owns you. A stream frees you. Poor thinkers invest in things that rust, fade, break, and lose value. Wealthy thinkers invest in things that reproduce, compound, and expand. Every unnecessary symbol you buy delays your ability to build a stream. But every stream you build brings you closer to financial independence. Once streams begin flowing, they create a safety net that protects your mind, your time, and your energy. Build streams first, symbols last. And by the time you can afford the symbols easily, you may no longer want them, because freedom feels better than attention. Law 32. Let patience do what panic never will. Patience is one of the rarest skills in the modern world. Everyone wants results now. Everyone wants returns now. Everyone wants progress now. But wealth is a game of long-term steadiness. The 32nd law of wealth is trusting time more than emotion. Wealthy people make decisions for the next decade, not the next week. They hold strong assets through fear, boredom, noise, and emotional storms. They understand that wealth grows slowly, then suddenly. Poor thinkers panic at every fluctuation. They sell too soon. They switch too fast. They interrupt compounding before it has a chance to reward them. Patience is not waiting passively. It is waiting intelligently. It is sticking to your plan when your emotions scream. It is choosing consistency over chaos. It is staying in the game long enough for the math to work. Panic destroys decades of possibilities. Patience creates decades of wealth. And once you learn to let time work uninterrupted, staying poor becomes nearly impossible. Law 33. Use fear as your advantage when the world panics. Fear is the emotional force that moves markets more than logic ever will. When fear rises, prices fall. When fear rises, people freeze. When fear rises, wealth silently transfers from those who panic to those who stay calm. The 33rd law of wealth is learning to treat fear not as a signal to run, but as a signal to prepare. Wealthy people expect fear-based opportunities. They keep lists of assets they want, with prices they are willing to buy at. When fear-driven sell-offs push prices down, they step in slowly, strategically, confidently. Not recklessly, not emotionally. Poor thinkers sell at the bottom because headlines scare them. Wealthy thinkers buy carefully because the math favours them. Fear discounts everything: stocks, real estate, businesses, partnerships, ideas. When you learn to stay grounded during storms, you acquire value the world mispriced. You gain wealth not because you are braver, but because you are calmer. You act when others retreat. You seize when others hesitate. Eventually, when panic fades and normalcy returns, your decisions look genius simply because you didn't follow the herd. Wealth grows when you use fear, not when fear uses you. And once you master this mindset, you realize that staying poor becomes almost impossible, because panic no longer controls your future. Law 34. Protect your wins before greed turns them into losses. Greed is the shadow that follows every financial gain. It whispers, more, just a little more. And that whisper has destroyed more wealth than any recession. The 34th law of wealth is knowing when enough is enough in each situation. Wealthy people set clear rules before they enter investments. They know their exit points. They decide how much profit satisfies them. They lock in wins before greed convinces them to gamble. Poor thinkers chase tops. They refuse to take profits because they dream of unrealistic outcomes. They let wins transform into losses because they fear missing out on even bigger gains. Wealthy minds stay rational. They recognize that no one sells at the perfect moment consistently. They are happy leaving money on the table because their goal is not perfection. It is preservation. Protecting wins is how you stack success. Every time you secure a profit, you free capital for the next opportunity. You build momentum, you build confidence, you build resilience. Greed destroys rhythm, clarity builds it. When you learn to respect the profits you make, you prevent emotional decisions from erasing months or years of progress. Wealth grows through discipline, not hunger. And once greed loses its grip on you, wealth finds no resistance. Law 35. Concentrate deeply but diversify wisely. Wealth requires focus, but also protection. The 35th law of wealth is understanding the balance between concentration and diversification. Poor thinkers misunderstand both. They either spread themselves thin across too many investments, or they put everything into a single idea with no margin for error. Wealthy individuals know that too much diversification dilutes returns, while too little magnifies risk, so they choose a middle path. They identify a few strong areas where they have knowledge, experience, or genuine conviction. They allocate larger portions of their resources there, but they still maintain a layer of protection. Diversification across sectors, timelines, markets, or industries, so that no single failure can collapse their foundation. Concentration builds wealth. Diversification protects it. Both are essential. Wealthy people follow their expertise, but they never become blind to uncertainty. They respect risk, they plan for volatility, they build portfolios that grow aggressively yet survive disruptions. Poor thinkers chase excitement. Wealthy thinkers engineer resilience. When you find the balance between focus and protection, your wealth grows consistently across the years, instead of exploding and collapsing. And consistency is the real secret behind every financial empire. Law 36. Trust long-term exposure over perfect timing. Timing tempts everyone. People dream of buying at the lowest point and selling at the peak. They imagine perfect entries and flawless exits. But perfection is an illusion that destroys more wealth than it creates. The 36th law of wealth is trusting long-term exposure more than perfect timing. Wealthy people do not wait endlessly for the best moment. They know how unpredictable markets are. Instead, they build systems, monthly investments, consistent contributions, steady acquisition of assets. They stay exposed to growth over time. Poor thinkers delay because they fear imperfection. They wait for ideal conditions. They wait until headlines calm. They wait until experts agree. And while they wait, they lose years of compounding. Wealth grows through exposure, not timing. Even mediocre timing beats perfect hesitation. When you invest consistently, you automatically buy during highs, lows, and everything in between. This smooths risk and increases returns over time. Wealthy people set rules, automate decisions, and trust the process. They understand that the market rewards patience, not precision. Once you embrace long-term exposure and abandon the dream of perfect timing, wealth becomes inevitable. The game becomes simple, and simplicity builds fortunes. Law 37. Build your safety net before you chase opportunity. Opportunity requires courage, but courage requires stability. The 37th law of wealth is building a safety net that protects you from panic, fear, and desperation. Wealthy people keep 3 to 6 months of living expenses saved, not because they expect disaster, but because they expect opportunity. When life hits them with an emergency, they do not collapse. They respond calmly. They protect their investments instead of selling them. They maintain focus instead of drowning in stress. Poor thinkers take risks before they build safety. They invest with money they cannot afford to lose. They stretch themselves too thin. They chase aggressive returns without protection. And when something unexpected happens, they crumble. Their safety net is non-existent, so every problem becomes a crisis. Wealthy minds understand that wealth grows fastest when you are not desperate. A safety net gives you clarity. It gives you room to think. It gives you patience. It allows you to pursue opportunities without fear of collapse. Build protection before ambition, stability before acceleration, foundations before skyscrapers. Wealth thrives on safety, not stress. And once your safety net is in place, your ability to grow becomes unstoppable. Law 38. Create multiple sources of strength, so one failure cannot break you. Life is unpredictable. Markets fluctuate, jobs disappear, industries shift. The 38th law of wealth is diversifying not just investments, but income. Wealthy people build multiple streams, some large, some small, some active, some passive. A small side business, a rental property, dividends, digital products, consulting, skills that produce income independently. They do this not to feel superior, but to feel secure. One stream failing becomes an inconvenience, not a disaster. One opportunity ending becomes a redirection, not a collapse. Poor thinkers rely entirely on one income source and hope nothing goes wrong. Hope is not a strategy. Stability comes from redundancy. Multiple streams give you confidence to take risks, explore new ventures, and invest boldly. They free you from the fear of losing your primary job. They give you a safety layer that makes growth possible. You do not need 10 massive streams. You need 2 or 3 meaningful ones and a few developing on the side. Strength multiplies when it comes from different places. And once you build multiple sources of wealth, staying poor becomes nearly impossible because no single failure can pull you down again. Law 39. Invest in yourself more than any asset you own. You are the engine behind every decision, every skill, every income stream, every opportunity. And the 39th law of wealth is recognizing that your mind is the most valuable asset you will ever possess. Wealthy people invest heavily in self-improvement. Books, courses, mentors, communication abilities, leadership, creativity, financial knowledge. Every skill you acquire multiplies your earning power. Every new mindset widens your opportunities. Every piece of knowledge protects you from costly mistakes. Poor thinkers stop learning once school ends. Wealthy thinkers never stop learning because they understand that money flows to those who solve problems. And problem solvers are made, not born. When you invest in yourself, maybe by opening your YouTube channel, you increase your value in the marketplace. You become rare. You become irreplaceable. You become the kind of person who sees opportunity where others see confusion. Skills compound like money. Knowledge compounds like money. Self-investment compounds more than money. Once you realize that building your mind is the fastest path to building your wealth, staying poor becomes impossible because your value keeps rising beyond what the world can ignore. Law 40. Accept total responsibility for your financial destiny. No one is coming to save you. Not the government. Not your employer. Not luck. Not miracles. The 40th law of wealth is accepting complete responsibility for everything you earn, save, invest, build, and lose. Wealthy people do not wait for permission. They do not blame circumstances. They do not depend on external forces. They build, they adjust, they act, they learn, they endure. Poor thinkers wait for opportunities instead of creating them. They blame the economy, their boss, their childhood, their city, or their environment for their lack of progress. But wealth responds only to ownership. When you accept responsibility, you gain power, you gain clarity, you gain control over your future. Every decision becomes meaningful. Every step becomes intentional. Every setback becomes a lesson instead of a defeat. Responsibility is not a burden, it is the doorway to freedom. Once you take ownership of your financial life, you stop drifting and start directing. You stop wishing and start building. And the moment that shift happens inside you, staying poor becomes not just unlikely, but impossible. You have now walked through 40 laws of wealth, each one a piece of the structure that separates those who rise from those who remain stuck. And as you reach this final moment, I want you to recognize something powerful. Wealth is not magic. Wealth is not reserved for the chosen few. Wealth is a pattern, a series of behaviors, a way of thinking that reshapes your direction quietly at first, then loudly as the results begin to multiply. When you apply these laws, even slowly, even imperfectly, something inside you shifts. You begin noticing opportunities instead of obstacles. You begin feeling calm where you once felt fear. You begin realizing that money does not lead your life, you do. And once that realization takes root, staying poor becomes impossible because your decisions stop coming from desperation and start coming from intention. These 40 laws are not meant to overwhelm you. They are meant to empower you. Apply one at a time. Apply 2. Apply 5. Let them stack. Let them blend into your daily routine. Let them guide you through uncertain seasons. Wealth grows in silence, in patience, in preparation, in consistency. You do not need perfection. You need direction. And tonight, you now have that direction. So if this journey stirred something inside you, if you felt even one shift in perspective, then do not let it fade. Stay connected, stay learning, stay growing with this channel. Hit the subscribe button, turn on notifications, and continue walking the path that most people never take. Because every week you will find more tools, more strategies, more clarity to push you forward. Subscribe now and keep building the life that used to feel out of reach, but is now firmly in your hands. Your wealth journey starts here, and it does not end. I want to leave you with a question. If you've made it this far in the video, it means what I'm explaining to you in my free Telegram community works, right? So join with the link below, and let me know in the comments which of these rules shocked you the most. Subscribe to this channel, and if you want to go deeper in these financial topics, you have a full guidance in the video that will appear on your screen in the next few seconds. And I'll see you soon. Just a reminder, I'm not a financial advisor. This video is for educational purposes only, and any results depend on your own decisions and actions.